Annyeonghaseyo. Ryan Walters here in the K-League United bunker along with Paul Neat and Matthew Binns. And if you tuned into our K2 preview, we ran down all 10 teams there. And now we are back for our K-League 1 preview. We're going to talk about all of the 12 teams in the top flight of Korean football. That was a bit much on the clock the first time, but yeah, feeling good. We're back for this. So before we get into the teams, just in case you're just tuning in, we do have some brand new kits of our own this year to debut. So these are the 2018 K-League United kits in red, green, and blue. These are available on the site if you're interested in supporting the site. Yeah, we didn't really touch on this in the first video, but we're kind of using the shirts as a way of covering site costs and a few other things. Just makes life a little bit easier for us to have a bit of cash coming in. So if you like what we do and you want to support us and you want to wear one of these lovelies in the meantime,
you're feeling charitable, then you know.
Or if you just want to look really good.
Yeah. Well, both charitable and look devilishly handsome at the same time.
Yeah.
So I mean, win-win.
Win. Or if you just want to if you want to make sure you're seen at night, you can get this one. If you just want to make sure you're very highly visible at night.
We have the World Cup coming up. Korea do play in red.
Yep.
You know, you could shell out $100,000 on a Korea shirt, or for a very reasonable $25,000 you can get a red K-League United shirt.
Comes with shorts too.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
it does.
So, just saying, I would buy one.
Anyway. I have. I got one because obviously I work here, but I bought another one. So there you go. That's how much I like them.
That's true. Speaking of shirts, we have one that might excite you a little bit more than ours, which is a bit rude, but you might. So we have a match-worn Marin Orsulic kit from Sungnam. And I think my favorite bit about this is that you can actually see on both the front and the back where he got tugged a little bit during the game.
Yeah, life as a centre-back in the K-League.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of a stretch mark on there where you can see that he got tugged. So it is indeed match-worn.
Battle-worn.
Battle-worn, that's right. So yeah, if you want to get that, just subscribe on YouTube. So if you're watching this after the fact on YouTube, just hit subscribe. And if you're watching on Facebook right now, stay here, please, and thank you for watching. And then after, go over to YouTube and hit subscribe. And then share it on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, wherever you'd like to do these things, and you're entered. That's it. Boom, bam. Easy.
Like a Sunday morning.
Like an Ilya Ilachin.
Like a Sonntag morgen.
And we haven't even got started yet. All right.
No, but it's Spanish, don't you?
A bit.
What Sunday morning in Spanish?
Un poco.
There you go.
Mi español es muy, muy mal.
Wow.
Look at him show off there.
You speak Chinese as well, but what's that in Chinese?
No, we're not talking about Chinese.
How do you say my Spanish is bad in Chinese? This is what you tuned in for, right? Anyway, the reason you probably did tune in is, not yet. Not that yet.
Easy now.
So, what we're going to do is we're going to spend 2 minutes on each of the teams in the top flight of Korean football, and we're going to talk about their record last year. We're going to talk about notable moves, needs, their key player, their biggest question, and the reason to watch this year. So that's what we're going to do for each of the teams. Once we're finished with all that, we're going to take a look at what the three of us think the table is going to look like at the end of November next year when the season is done. And then, unlike the K2, this time we're also going to jump into our season awards predictions. So we're going to predict the K-League 1 winner. We're going to predict the FA Cup. We're going to do Manager of the Year, MVP, Attacker of the Year, Defender of the Year, all of our awards. We're going to go over all of those at the end. So if you have any predictions that you want to get in, go ahead and get those in the comments below. And while we're going through all the teams, we'll be more than happy to pause and answer any questions that you have coming in. So if we touch on anything that you want us to go into a little bit more detail about, we'll pause in between the teams a little bit to answer your questions. So go ahead and get those in the comments below. All right. Are we ready?
Let's go.
Okay. 2 minutes per team, starting with last year's K-League Challenge, as it was known then. K-League Challenge champions by far and away, with 24 wins, 7 draws, and only 5 losses. Back in the first division, we have Gyeongnam FC, and I'll be talking about them in now. All right, so some notable moves. Said to be one of the best box-to-box midfielders in K2, Jung Hyun Chol has made the move to FC Seoul this year and has left a pretty considerable gap in their midfield. He has a really high work rate. He can get in and score a few goals, and he was a big reason that Marcao, the leading goal scorer in K2 last year, had as many goals as he did. He's going to be really missed for them. Speaking of Marcao, much like in K2, we talked about Kim Dong-chan for Sungnam. I think keeping Marcao in Gyeongnam is as good of a signing as they could have made. Being the league leader in goals last year, he definitely had some offers coming in. The choice to stay is a huge, huge coup for Gyeongnam to have him with them as they get back up into the top flight. Needs. This is a team that didn't really look like they had many flaws last year. Again, they really ran away with the league, but they didn't have the steadiest of backlines. They didn't concede a lot, but as our Gangnam columnist James Edrup put it, their mentality was kind of, if you score 2, we'll score 3. It worked last year. That's not going to work in the top flight. It's not going to work in K1 this year, so they need to be a little more solid at the back if they're going to see out these wins. So their key player, for me, it's pretty impossible to say anyone other than Marcao. He lit up K2 last year, hands down MVP, scored 22 league goals. It'll be interesting to see if he can make that transition into K1. I wouldn't expect 22 goals, but he's still going to be their main man when it comes to the attack. So the biggest question for them, it doesn't seem like it'll be an issue with a lot of the teams that are hovering around the bottom of the table, but can they stay in the top flight? I think that's got to be any promoted team's main question. Can they stay up? And the reason to watch is that if they're anything like they were last year, this team is a lot of fun to watch. This team played really fast, fluid attacking football, and they play in one of the best stadiums in Korea, in my opinion, Changwon Football Center. Nice. Highly recommend it. All right, a team that just eked out their existence in K1 last year and managed to stay up via the playoff with 8 wins, 11 draws, and 19 losses was the military side, Sangju Sangmu, and Matt is going to talk about them in...
Okay, so Sangju Sangmu became the first team to survive the dreaded relegation playoff last season. All this after their team was stripped down to the bare bones once again in September, like every year, with a military team. However, they have a capable bunch of new recruits. Kim Min-woo from Suwon Blue Wings. He was a standout player last year for Suwon, and he took over, coincidentally, from Hong Chul, who is also at Sangju Sangmu. So he's actually following his predecessor to clubs here, yeah. But last year he earned an international call-up. He was that good, and me and our columnist Scott Whitelock, we had many a discussion whether him or Kim Jin-soo should be starting at left back for Korea. However, Kim Min-woo is also could play in attacking left midfield, so I don't think there'll be a problem there playing alongside Hong Chul. We've also got Yoonbik Garam. He moved to Jeju last summer as a move of convenience to facilitate this move, because you can only move to the military from a K-League side. He's a creative midfielder at Jeju. He'll be good for the military team. They also had Han Kuk-young, who was also another Korean international, but he's actually done is a cruciate ligament and will not be required for military duty. He's actually going back to Gangwon. Needs, well, the defence is a bit soft, but what can they really do about it? This is a military team. They get who they're given, and there's just no defenders. Worryingly for Korea's military, that there's no defence currently coming through at this time. Baek Dong-gyu from Jeju and Cha Young-hwan from Busan may look to fill in at centre-back, though, alongside Kim Tae-hwan, who was probably the best of their centre-backs last season. Key player, Joo Min-kyu. What can we say about this man? He, the top domestic scorer last season with 17 goals. Biggest question, can they get enough points on the board by September? This team is weak in defence. They'll also suffer again in September, but not only that, the first 10 rounds are away from home due to a regional sports festival in Sangju. Reasons to watch? Well, why would you? It's a poor location with poor bus links and teams are ever-changing, but it's an interesting format, and support the underdog. They play attacking football, it's all or nothing football, and it'll be intense till the final whistle on the last day.
Joo Min-gyu. Watch for Joo Min-gyu.
Well, that's true.
Well, he will leave for Eland in September.
He will, which could be a huge boon
But
for
that's
Eland.
after the World Cup, though, so can he play his way into the World Cup squad? I mean, it'd be unlikely, but you never know.
It'd be great, but he can't seem to do right by that.
Yeah.
Moving on to a team that I would rather not get to this soon in the list, with only 8 wins, 9 draws, and 19 losses last year, finishing in 10th place. My beloved Jeonnam Dragons. So some notable moves for them. Unfortunately, their notable moves are outgoing moves. Their leading 2 goal scorers last year, the Brazilian Jair and Hungarian Robert Fekirchen, have both left the club this winter, leaving 26 goals to be filled coming into this year. And unfortunately, they haven't really brought in many reinforcements. They brought in Wanderson, 2 Wandersons actually.
Squared.
One from Pohang and one from Gwangju. Jeonnam fans will remember Wanderson as coming in as a late sub in a late game when they needed points, and instead they allowed a second half hat trick by Wanderson. So you'll be familiar with him. Anyway, Jair and Fekirchen's departures leave a lot to be determined this year. I was okay with Fekirchen leaving because I thought he was one of the best in the league at getting in position and one of the worst in the league of converting when he was in that position. But that was under the assumption that Jair would still be there. And with him gone, that leads us to needs, which, in a word, everything. This team is in really rough shape going into the year. The defense has a lot of talent, but they weren't able to really put it together last year. I expected better from Lee Sung-ho in net. So they need a lot. The midfield, however, is where they seem a bit better with Han Chan-hee, Kim Young-uk, and Yukovic all returning. So the middle of the field should be all right for them, which leads to their key player I have pegged as Kim Young-uk. He's already been linked with moves to the Middle East to get that payday and to get into a potentially more competitive side. 26 years old, he's a box-to-box midfielder that's also going to need to do a lot. He's going to need to prove that he can score, and he's also going to need to help out defensively. Which leads to their biggest question: can they stay up? Last year, they eked out a spot in the first division simply by luck. Reason to watch: this is a team that's never made the drop before. They're not Sungnam levels of good, but they haven't gone down yet. Are they going to do it this year? Find out. All right. Speaking of teams that are constantly in the relegation scrap, with 7 wins, 18 draws, and 13 losses last year, Paul is going to tell us a little bit about Incheon United.
I am indeed. Again.
When you're told, no.
Sorry. They have focused their foreign quotas on strikers. The mayor or the chairman of the club, he believes that the way to win, the way to be successful in the K-League is to buy foreign strikers. So he's brought in a Montenegrin, and they've done that before, haven't they?
It's worked out for them before.
Yeah, Stefan Mugosa, he's come in from the Moldovan champions, Sharif Tiraspol, and so, having a winning mentality, coming from a league where he's just won it, that might be good for them. They've also brought in Apia Kubi, a New Zealand winger from the A-League. He's played in quite a few clubs in the A-League. It's quite a surprising move. When he thought that perhaps he wasn't K-League good, but he is quick, and pace goes a long way in the K-League.
He's rumoured to move to MLS, actually.
Yeah. So, it remains to be seen whether he'll adapt, but he's quick. Out, they've lost Ha Chang-rae and Connor Chapman, both big blows.
Yeah.
So whether they can plug those gaps. Needs, well, a goal scorer. Quite simply, they've tried to find goal scorers for the past 2 or 3 years and they've failed. They will be hoping that Mugosa is the one that can do that. And Tim Barnes, as I've used some of his notes here, he thinks the key player will be Moon Sun Min. He's quite an exciting winger, and if he can produce the kind of form where he showed in against Suwon Blue Wings last year, where he got man of the match, he could be a good fit for the likes of Mugosa in attack. And then, biggest question, can they stay up? The chairman was talking about the top 6. That's madness, frankly.
Yeah. Stay
Stay up. Reason to watch, they are the plucky underdog, and they have a great stadium, and yeah, they are just a good team to watch when they need to win.
That's true. Yeah. They are. If you haven't been to Incheon Stadium yet, go. Alright. Moving on in the table to 8th place with 11 wins, 14 draws, and 13 losses. A team that finished a little bit higher than I think we may have expected last year. Daegu FC, and Matt is going to tell us about them.
Yeah, so Daegu FC, they became quite the neutrals' favourite, playing a brand of entertaining and attacking style of football. Unfortunately, two of the main antagonists in this, Vander and Junior, have gone elsewhere. They were responsible for 23 of their 50 goals, plus 11 of their assists last season. They have gone from the squad. They've brought in two Brazilians, Jean and Tyon. I should have learnt that name before I came on. Well, Daegu have got a good reputation with scouting Brazilians. Obviously, the three players they had last season, plus a very devilishly handsome Brazilian familiar with a spray tan booth near you, Jonathan. But Muyol, as our Daegu columnist, and his readers' excellent preview on our site, he's picked up two other players as their big signings. Ko Sung Bum, who from Blue Wings, he fills a hole which Daegu were short on the wing backs and also in centre mid. And Jung Sung Ho, he's a diligent but not offensive player, but can play in the centre, so it kind of just fills in gaps that they needed. They do need a centre back though. Park Dae Hong left for personal reasons, although again Muyol, just borrowing from his notes, he wasn't too sure on his consistency, and because he hasn't been replaced, it will be an issue. Player to watch, Cecina. I thought he was great. I thought he was the K-League David Silva. I loved watching him. Last year, 7 goals, 7 assists, and didn't light the world up on fire, but he does play in the bottom half of the table. It's his third year at Daegu though, and he was one of the 4 most foul players in the league last season because people just couldn't get the ball off him. Also, Cho Hyun-oh, goalkeeper, it's just worth mentioning him. It's a big year for him with Russia on the horizon. He's finally made it as career's number 1. Can he cement it this year? Question, can they repeat what they did last year? They've lost their star strikers, but they've played so well last year. If they can just repeat that again, they've got a good, interesting manager, a foreign manager as well. I think it'd be great if they could just repeat that kind of style of football. Reason to watch, it's the last season at the Daegu World Cup Stadium. At least go and tick it off your list before it becomes like the Incheon World Cup Stadium.
I have done that. It's very big actually. It's very inside with the track around it. Massive.
Huge. I think it's the biggest one.
I think it is, yeah. It certainly feels like it because it's, with the track around it.
So, moving on, a team with a much better stadium. With 15 wins, 7 draws, and 16 losses, finishing just under, even though they had a better record than the team above them in the table. In 7th place, we had Pohang Steelers. Paul.
Yes. Now, Connor Chapman. I just talked about him for Incheon. He had a good season despite how Incheon were battling relegation, but he can play as centre back or as a defensive midfield player, and it is a move that made perfect sense. I thought. They've also got Ha Chang Rai, that I always talked about, that's just left in Incheon. But also in the goalkeeping area, they signed Ryu Won-woo from Bucheon. Now, Shin Hwa-hyung and No Dong-gun have never convinced me, who have had spells at Pohang. They've needed a goalkeeper, I think, for a couple of years. Ryu Won-woo is quite a promising, fairly young goalkeeper. For goalkeeping terms, he's quite young. So I think those are smart signings. But they've also lost quite a lot of goals. Yang Dong-hyun gone to the J-League, and Lulinia also got 11. He's left as well. They brought in Getterson and Leo Gamalio. Pohang, quite like Daegu, have had a decent record of scouting Brazilian players. So they may be ones that hit the ground running. We don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Key player. Now, it's hard to say because they have had a lot of players come in. But I will say that there'll be Basil Gee, Connor Chapman, and Kim Sung-dae will be important for them.
Yeah. Will
they be a key player? It's too hard to say at this moment in time. Big question for Pohang, big club. As you can see by those stars, they are a decorated. Well, if you can see them, a well-decorated club in K-League circles. Can they get back into the top half and be in with a shout for the ACL? Clearly, with the signings of Connor Chapman, they've tried to woo him with ACL talk and stuff. So they need to get back to that kind of level again. Reason to watch, go to the Steelyard. I haven't been there yet, but I want to. It's regarded as probably the best. Well, it was the first all-in-purpose football stadium in Korea. That's the reason to go. And they are a good team to watch. So, yeah, that's why you should go to Pohang. Or watch them at least.
And we will make a trip down there soon, this year. So, moving on into the top half of the table, the championship round, as it's known. In 6th place with 13 wins, 10 draws, and 15 losses, but still managed to get up into that top half, is Gangwon FC. And in notable moves, we're going to talk about him a little bit more later. Australian central defender Dylan McGowan is a key move for them. He formerly played for the Scottish side Hearts, won a few trophies with Adelaide United down in the A-League. He's technically on loan here, and this is 100% about earning a spot in the Socceroos in a chance to get to Russia, much like his Aussie counterpart Matthew German has done with his time at Suwon. After holding just 3 clean sheets all of last year, I'll repeat that again, holding 3 clean sheets last year, Gangwon needed as much help as they could get in that back line, and it seems like McGowan is going to be the perfect signing to do that. So that's a really, really good move for them. And Matthew touched on this a little bit. Han Kuk-young is he's going to be with Gangwon after all. Similar player to Yoonbik Aram a little bit, so he'll help out in that midfield a little bit once he gets healthy. Needs. I've pegged them as needing consistent goalkeeping because I thought bringing Lee Bum-young back from the J-League side was, personally, I rated that as one of the best moves of the off-season last year. I really rated him when he was with Busan. And instead of showing why he was with the national team before he made the move to Japan, he instead showed why he was more than welcome to leave from Japan. He had a pretty rough season. They've brought in Kim Ho-jun from Jeju to challenge for that number 1 spot, so we'll see how that goes. But goalkeeping battle coming into the season is not necessarily a good look for a team that couldn't hold clean sheets last year. So the key player for them, in spite of all the defensive talk, I think it's going to be Lee Gun-ho, because he's the captain of this side with plenty of leaders. He's going to be their offense, and he wants to make sure that he's on that team that's going to Russia this year. He's usually in the Korean national team side, but I think he knows he needs to have a strong start to the season to assure that spot. Biggest question, can they make good on their ACL promise? Because they said they were going to go up, and that's also the reason to watch. Why not? All right. Moving on in the top half of the table with 14 wins, 11 draws, and 8 losses that may have felt like a little bit more last year. We have the slightly underachieving FC Seoul, and Paul is going to take them.
I shall. Now, outgoings. Daean, Osmar, Yoon Il-ok. Those all irk me quite a lot. You can't sell or let your highest scorer leave. You can't let your highest assist maker leave. You can't make the person who's made the most interceptions in the league leave, not just in the team. But alas, Hwang Sun-hong did just that. So those are the notable outgoings among some others. And they brought in Evandro, as you talked about with Daegu, and Anderson Lopez, a Brazilian that they brought in from the J-League with Sanfrecce Hiroshima. Mm-hmm. We had a talk with an expert on the J-League about this person, this player, and he said that he can play as a winger or as a striker, and because he's powerful and he's quick. Mm-hmm. He could play in either of those roles. He's been given the number 9 shirt. If that has any meaning, I don't know. For me, I quite like squad numbers, so maybe he'll play down the middle.
No pressure wearing number 9 after last year.
Exactly. Shin Jin-ho has come back from Sangju. I think he's a good midfield player. Kim Sung-jun as well, who has had spells with Songnam, will probably sit in that midfield role where Osmar used to sit. They need a left back for a start, I think. Even last year they needed a left back when they had likes of Kim Ji-woo, who was... It was time for him to leave, I think, at 34 years old. But most importantly, they need character. They need big characters, because a lot of big characters have left.
Yeah.
A lot of professionalism in that squad has left. Biggest question, can they get back into ACL? To get into the title picture would be too unrealistic. Yeah. First things first, just get back into the ACL, because to finish 5th was unacceptable, in my opinion. Reasons to watch, all eyes will be on Seoul to bounce back, and for Hwang Sun-hong to prove that he isn't a bad manager. It's interesting whether he fails or whether they are a success.
We'll see.
Yes.
It's going to be interesting. Moving on to a team that had a good season last year, and is off to a really good start in ACL this year. A team that's been a lot of fun to watch. Last year they had 17 wins, 11 draws, and 10 losses. Matt is going to tell us a little bit more about Ulsan Hyundai.
Okay, so yeah, they had a good season. They won the FA Cup for the first time, but the FA Cup kind of masked the fact that they had their league form tailed off as they reached the end of the season. In fact, the FA Cup probably saved Kim Do-hun's job, which our Ulsan columnist Dan Croydon also agrees on. Their 2 main signings in are Yohei Toyoda from Sagan Tosu. He's there on a year loan. He's a veteran defender, a bit of a target man, perhaps the next Kim Shin-uk. He's got 119 goals in 234 appearances at his parent club, so he's not a bad player. Park Joo-ho, though, is the big name on everybody's lips. Brought in from Borussia Dortmund, a left back in need of playing time ahead of the World Cup. Is he this year's Kim Jin-soo? 2 John Book comparisons there. Wow, what am I doing? But he wants to go to Russia, can play left back or midfielder, and he could be very damaging on the left when played with Orsic. We've already seen that already in the 2 ACL matches that Ulsan have done alright in. But their most notable need, and again, this is what Dan Croydon, our Ulsan columnist, suggests: be more ruthless. For me personally, though, they don't rarely kill off opponents, but what I noticed is they were always prone to collapsing when they went behind, and that's reflected in the fact they finished the season in 4th, but with negative goal difference again. Key player, Mislav Orsic. We've spoke about him so many times. He's a fantastic creative player. Usually plays on the wing and he's good at dead balls and long shots. But he normally gets marked out the game. He was their key outlet last season. But having Park Joo-ho just providing that extra bit for him on the left, it could really work out in his favour. Biggest question, can they hold their own against the top 6? That's not my question, that's Dan Croydon's. But it makes perfect sense given that they tailed off at the end of last season. So post-split, can they do it? Reason to watch, they look far more entertaining than last season, despite Kim Do-hun being at the helm, who I think has rather negative tactics. However, apparently it seems that they're playing at faster tempo and having much more speculative attempts, scoring 4 of their 5 ACL goals from outside the box. We all love a worldie.
And they've been scoring nothing but worldies in ACL. They've been a lot of fun to watch in ACL. Alright, so moving on to another team that's been looking pretty good in ACL. They finished 3rd last year with 17 wins, 13 draws, and 8 losses. It is the Suwon Samsung Blue Wings, and I will be talking about them in... Alright, so it's been pretty impossible to talk about the Blue Wings this offseason without talking about Dejan Damjanovic, the longtime FC Seoul legend. Netted 19 goals last year. It was good enough for 2nd in the league. He was told that maybe he should retire by FC Seoul, so instead he's playing for their greatest rival. So he's already got 3 goals in ACL this year. He looks hungry. He was a great addition. He was announced just a couple of days after Jonathan left the club, so nice PR move and a strong signing by Suwon there. But it would be a mistake to talk about him and not the other foreign signings that they've made. It's also worth noting the Brazilian duo Weguninho and Cristovam, who Cristovam I didn't know much about before we went and watched ACL. They've both had a strong ACL so far. Weguninho looks like he's going to be a strong counter to Kyun on the left, and Cristovam is making some of the best overlapping runs along that right side that I've seen in this league. A lot of fun. Just go watch some of the ACL highlights of him. It'll be really interesting to see how those two can play together on that right side. Needs. There isn't a lot when you look at the starting lineups for this team, but when you go a little bit deeper, there's not as much depth at Suwon as there is in the other title contenders. So for me, their needs is just depth signings. They need their bench to show up. So the difference between them and Jeonbuk last year, and Matt, you're going to love this, was depth and squad rotation, because I know how much you love squad rotation from Jae Kang-hee. So if they're going to challenge on 3 different fronts this year as well, they got the league, they got the FA Cup, which a lot of us are pegging them for the FA Cup, and they're also, they got a puncher's chance to stay in ACL, so they're going to need depth. For that, I have their key player pegged as Matthew German, because we watched them get pretty destroyed in the back against Kashima Antlers. It could have been much worse than it was. He is absolutely key to holding down that back line and moving things forward. Biggest question is, can they challenge for the title this year? They definitely have the talent. Can they finally put it together and do it? Reason to watch, they're a lot of fun to watch. A lot of talent on that team. All right. Moving on into second place, their best finish ever. With 19 wins, 9 draws, and 10 losses, we have the Islanders, Jeju United, and Paul is going to talk about them.
I shall. Yes, Jeju. Notable moves for me is one that didn't happen. Lee Chang-min. He was supposed to go to the Middle East, but then the manager changed his mind and decided they didn't want him. And I was really pleased because he's a really good attacking midfield player. He can play in the centre or behind the strikers. I've mentioned this before, but I'll say it again. In the ACL last year, in the group stages, he was in the top 5 in terms of chances created. He's already scored in the ACL this season. He scored the first goal in the win just last week. But they've also brought in a couple of other Brazilians. Of course, they have Thiago and Robertson. Whether they are good enough, I don't know. Branco agrees with this as well. It's too early to say whether these two players are going to be impactful for this team. They brought in a goalkeeper, Kim Kyung-min, because they sold Kim Ho-jun, as you said earlier, to Gangwon. What do they need? Well, more quality. I don't think that they've signed enough quality. They've replaced players that have gone out, like Nielsen went back to Brazil. They've replaced him in that respect. But they haven't got a plan B, because Mendy left as well. Jin Sung-wook is a good player that I like, but he needs to add goals to his game. He doesn't score enough goals. They need more quality in that squad. Biggest question is, can they prove that last season wasn't just a one-off? Because they finished second, but was that just to do with other teams not being strong enough? Was it actually Jeju that were deserving of a second place finish, or was it because Suwon, Seoul, Ulsan, etc. weren't there? Reason to watch. They're a fast-paced, exciting team, and they've scored a lot of goals in the last few years. So it stands to reason that they could be like that again this year.
Indeed. They were fun to watch last year, but it's a really good point if they can put it together again this year.
Yeah.
So the only team that's left, I think you know who's coming next, with 22 wins, 9 draws, and only 7 losses, winning yet another K-League title last year, was Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors, and their biggest fan in the world is going to talk about them.
Okay, so they have brought in a number of signings, but the most eye-catching ones perhaps were the duo of Thiago and Adriano. Thiago most notably for his half a season at Songnam, where he scored 13 goals before being purchased by a Middle Eastern side and then shipped around on loan. But he's back. Jeonbuk have bought him outright, and he's back in the league, and he's a creative attacking force. He looks the perfect replacement for Leonardo, who left 2 seasons ago. He's also a bit of a neutral favourite, but who knows now? He's playing in green. Adriano, he scored 31 goals in all competitions in 2016.
Yeah.
13 in the Champions League, which is what he's been bought for, and he's already bagged 3, although if you call it a true hat-trick, well, we'll see.
Champions League record, by the way.
It is a Champions League record.
Yeah.
He's not at full stride yet. He was left out the team against Kashiwa because of fitness. He's played against Kitchi to get his fitness up, so we haven't seen him yet at his full powers, but if he can get back to what it was, it'd be fantastic. 2 other notable names. Hong Jong-ho came back from Jiangsu, centre-back in need of playing time before the World Cup, and Son Jun-ho, Pohang player, who was the top assist maker last season. Needs, well, what do you get the team that's got everything? Probably reassurances on their goalkeeper in defence of Hong Jong-nam, and he has been getting it some flack recently. He had 1 bad game against Kashiwa Reysol that cost the team. Well, yeah, he had a bad game. So bad that one Australian commentator on a podcast thought that he might have been bribing for. But anyway, he's the most replaceable by the manager. But he's not a bad keeper. He was perfect in the league last season. You know, he's not that bad. But they have brought in good goalkeepers as well to back him up, with Song Bum-kum, who is under 20 Korea starlet. Key player Lee Jae-sung. Is this really his final year? He never goes. Could be this year. Question, can they win on multiple fronts? Just win it better, you know. Got to win 2 things. And final question, why to watch? Adriano and Thiago, 2 of the best of 2016, playing together. You've got to hope it comes, you know.
The rich get richer. That's what's happened there, isn't it?
That's a real scary side. I think for those of us watching ACL, when you saw Suwon doing well and you saw Ulsan doing well, it was, maybe the league will be a little bit closer this year, maybe it'll be interesting. And then Jeonbuk has just been rolling through ACL so far, just looking real good doing it.
I mean, obviously against Kitchi they were expected to win, but that second half in the first game,
the Kashiwa
Reysol,
because obviously they had to come back
the Idong
from the dead.
show.
Idong Guk came on and scored twice, and it just shows the character in the team as well, because to come back from 2-0 down against a good team, so
it's going to be a tough slog for teams to challenge them.
They're untouchable, Jeonbuk. I would like to see another team challenge, and if there was one, it would probably be what I'll say on this.
Yeah, we're going to get into that.
Look a superb, aren't they? Unfortunately.
Thank you for watching.
If you like the video, go ahead and click on his face to subscribe, and you can be entered for a chance to win this Match-worn Maren Orsulich kit just by subscribing and sharing the post. Again, click on his face.